In episode 86 of the GRQ podcast, we go through 6 delicious Clubland stories that have been waiting for us. Stuart chimes in with another marker conundrum, and Blakey fills us in on his live experience in Adelaide. So grab a cuppa, sit back and relax, and let Blakey and Stuart bring you the Golf Rules Questions podcast. Golf is a test of character before it is a test of skill, and playing by the rules of golf will definitely test your character. Welcome everyone to the GRQ podcast, episode 86. I'm Blakey, and alongside me I have my good friend Stuart McPhee. Hello Stuart, how are you?
I'm well, Blakey, but I don't think I had as great a weekend as you would have had over in Adelaide.
Yeah, well, my voice has gone a little bit as we were celebrating, partying last night on the back of what was an unbelievable experience. It was exhausting having that many people around and making sure that everything was going well and going to plan. So it actually was exhausting, but it was an amazing event. And yeah, we look forward to it all happening again in Adelaide next year.
Very good.
So we'll talk a bit about a couple of rulings from Liv later on in the program. But I really wanted to get the Clubland stories out of the way, or not out of the way, to the listeners, because you're the ones that have been asking the questions, and I want to answer those questions, or we want to answer those questions as quickly as possible. But first, Stuart, could you tell us the GRQOTW for episode 85?
Marcela and Fraser are playing a match at Wombat Hills. Both players have a 4 on the 12th hole. And as they are walking off the green, Fraser says to Marcela, "That is a half." Marcela says nothing. As they are standing at the 13th tee, and before either player has started the next hole, Marcela says, "Actually, I got a shot on that last hole, so I won." Fraser replies, "No, that's not right. As we walked off the green, I said we were halved, and you heard me, and you didn't correct me. It is a halved hole." Marcela requests a ruling. What would you decide?
Yeah, and a couple of guys on the YouTube fired through some answers there. So Daryl and David, a couple of regular contributors, which we absolutely love. And they pointed out rule 3.2D3, which is spot on. So Marcela has up until the next player tees off, or a player tees off from the next hole, to correct the understanding of the match score. So Fraser's not quite right on that one, and Marcela is now one up.
What would happen if Fraser said, "Oh, that's a half," and Marcela says, "Yep, that's correct. We both had a 4." Does she still have up until when one of them begins or makes a stroke to begin the next hole? Does she still have that opportunity to say, "Actually, I've just realised I get a stroke on that hole. I don't think that is correct. I think I've won"? Does she still have the opportunity to correct that?
Yeah, she does have that opportunity to correct it. I mean, it's all about the understanding of the score before another stroke is made, basically.
And so if Fraser, who thinks he has the honour, tees it up on the 13 and makes a stroke to begin play of the hole, and Marcela goes, "Oh, actually, I just realised I had a shot on the 12th. Bad luck. Can't correct it."
Yeah, correct, because the understanding by Fraser could change the way that he plays the next hole. If he was down, he might be a bit more aggressive. If he was up, he might be a bit more defensive. Then if another player comes along and says, "Oh, actually, I forgot to apply the shot that I get," well, that's their responsibility. And if they haven't done it in a timely manner, then that's bad luck on them, really.
Actually, so under 3.2 as well is a section called knowing the match score, the fact that both player and opponent had that responsibility. It was one of the questions I asked on my recent course was, why do we continue the match with, in fact, a score that's incorrect? And they basically said along the lines of what you just said, and that is that, well, one, you have a responsibility to know, but that actually can affect the way you then play the next hole based on your understanding of the score. No good 3 holes later going, "Oh, actually, no, that score is incorrect. We need to change it back," because it's influenced the way you played the last 2 or 3 holes. So that was a really good answer, and you've answered it as well. why a wrong match score actually becomes the real match score, even if it's incorrect.
Yeah, spot on. Have you ever had that happen like, apart from theory, have you ever heard of that?
Don't think so. No. Oh, sorry. Yes, not from. I thought you were talking about me when I was thinking about that. Definitely heard of one situation. Yes, at my old club, misunderstanding of a rule. But then as soon as they began, so they actually had a wrong match score, which became the real match score. So yes, it was to do with conceding a hole and a misunderstanding of the rule. Basically,
I think that's one of the first times you actually contacted me about what the ruling was.
I think it was. You know the one, yeah.
That was like the 10th at Heritage or something like that.
Oh, that is amazing. 10th at Henley.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
It just popped in my head. I was like, oh, I think I remember something like that.
That's exactly. And you're going, who is this guy constantly pestering me with emails? Please.
Yeah, I was like, oh, another one of those. But luckily for you, I am one of those rules nerds as well. So sort of, yeah. What's that saying? You
struck a chord? No, resonated.
You mix with the people that you are, that type of thing.
Very good. All right. So Marcela's in business.
You seem to attract to the people that you are.
So in that case, Marcela did in fact win the hole.
Yeah, correct. And she tees off first. Has the honour. Now let's get into. We've got 6 Clubland stories sitting in front of us. I think I've gone through most, but there might have been one pop up at the end that I wasn't sure of. So let's start with nickname Colin. Colin, tell us about your rules situation at your club. So club length placing. My playing partner asked our group what this ruling would be. He was on the fringe of the green and was going to putt on. He asked if he took a club length placing onto the green, would this be allowed? What actions? No one really knew what the answer was, so my mate just putted from where his ball had landed. One of our group, when we got in, asked someone who sort of knows some of the rules, said that would be improving his lie, like maybe taking a club length from the fairway onto the rough, so you tee it up slightly for a wood shot or long iron. I don't know if you fellas have discussed this before, but I'm not sure what the correct ruling would be. So basically what Colin is saying is the club obviously has a preferred lies local rule in place, and that preferred lies is a club length. The player wanted to take the preferred lies club length and place his ball from the general area onto the green. And then they were having a discussion, and they believed that it would be similar from taking it from the rough to the fairway.
Right.
If the local rule for preferred lies also was in the general area, not just the cut to fairway height or less. Is that what you gathered from that situation?
Yeah,
Stuart?
so there was a model local rule E3, preferred lies was in place. That preferred lie, the relief area is 1 club length, and they're simply saying, can we move it, assuming it was no nearer the hole, can they move it from the general area onto the putting green as part of that relief procedure? I think that's the gist of the question.
What is the answer there, Stuart?
Well, you know the answer as well as I do. That is a definite no. The preferred lie is in the general area. You can't, the relief area's got to be in the general area. You can't put it onto the green. And I'll put this to you. I don't know of a situation in which you can get your ball onto the green without penalty. As in take relief and your ball ends up on the green without penalty.
You've put me on the spot there.
No, if it's a penalty area, the green might be right next to the penalty area. You can drop on the green. A tree overhanging a green, take an unplayable, drop it onto the green. But all of those incur a penalty. I can't think of any situations in which your ball can end up on the green after taking relief, but for free. Because any free relief procedure is probably restricted to the area of the course you're taking relief in.
I certainly can't think of a situation.
We digress, but the answer to the question, no.
The answer, Colin, is no, you can't place it on the green from the general area, even when that local rule preferred lie is in place. Now, to your second point about rough and fairway, which you did point more like a question, if the local rule preferred lie is in place for the general area, and the general area is rough and fairway, so it includes both, you can actually take it from the rough to the fairway or from the fairway to the rough, because you might find that you get a nice little tuft of grass in the rough. So that's a yes if the local rule doesn't specify that its preferred lies are for fairway height or cut to fairway height or less. Okay, so if it just says preferred lies in the general area, then you would be able to take it within that club length if it was from rough to fairway. But if it was just cut to fairway height or less, if it's specified in the general area cut to fairway height or less, you would have to keep it in the fairway, or take it from the fairway to the rough. You wouldn't have the option of taking a preferred lie in the rough. I hope I've made that clear.
And if we went back to that, you would like to think the local rule in place at that club would be very specific about the requirements for the relief area. Must be within 1 club length, no nearer the hole, and in the general area. It would more than likely specify that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if the club doesn't write down that local rule, doesn't write the whole paragraph down, what do you do then, Stuart?
What does the rule say then?
Well,
what does it say?
What if they just wrote on their board?
Yeah. Preferred lies
in play today. Preferred lies.
1 club length.
Okay. They specified 1 club length. What would you do?
Well, I know what you and I would do.
What would you assume?
Oh, you know what you and I would assume. We would assume the same thing.
Call the committee and abuse them.
No, you and I would know that it's going to be general area. We wouldn't be dropping it on the green or placing it on the green as part of a relief procedure, preferred lies.
But you would be able
to do that.
You would be able to prefer it from the rough to the fairway if you wanted to.
Sure, if it didn't specify closely mown.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And you would know that it's no nearer the hole. Like that's what the E3 tells us.
Says all that. Yeah.
The default. You just what I'm trying to get at is you just go back to what the default tells us, and that's under committee procedures, local rules 8 E3.
E3, which you and I would know and would follow. So that's when you ask me, well, I know what I would do, but what would most club golfers do? Hey, my 1 club length no nearer the hole is on the green. Beauty.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. And that's what we're telling Colin is that's a no-no. Right. Chip. Hello, Chip. Thank you for sending your question in. Question about a ruling. I just finished listening to a question from Bob, I think. A guy is playing a red ball and then realizes that he had played a white ball. Most of the conversation was about the guy who picked up the ball. Wouldn't it be playing the wrong ball since there was no reason given for switching balls? Thank you for the podcast. Good question, Chip. Can you remember this Clubland story?
Yeah, I do. It was balls gone off into the rough, searching his the other person he's playing with. His mate finds him. Hey, here's your ball with your marking on it, but it's white. And Bob's gone, no, I've been playing a yellow ball all day or a red ball all day. It's not mine. But it's got your marking on it. Yeah, but it's not mine. I've been playing yellow. And then they're searching, can't find. 2 minutes later, Bob goes, actually, you picked up that ball. Can you just show me what that ball is again, please? And he looked at it, oh, that is my ball. I remember I teed off on this hole with a white ball, not yellow. That's my ball. What do we do now? I think that was the gist of that scenario, which of course happened for real.
Was it past? Can you remember if it was past 3 minutes?
No, it was not within 3 minutes. Sorry, it was not past 3 minutes. It was within the 3 minute search time.
So
it was like a minute later.
Lucky. They were lucky and they found that ball. Now, so we've spelled out what it was. Now, Chip saying, was the player allowed to switch balls?
Switch balls. No, yes. The ball's got to be replaced.
No, he was asking why
from the tee
if he'd been playing a red ball all day.
Oh yeah,
that's right. From the tee.
From the tee. Unless the tournament event local rule has a 1 ball rule or something like that, then of course you can begin a new hole with a new ball. Yeah.
So the answer to that, Chip, is the ball has to be the same from tee shot to putting it into the green, into the hole, sorry. unless you've lost your ball or you're allowed to substitute it. But after the hole's finished, you can use any new ball, old ball, as long as it's conforming for the next hole, and you could use a new ball for the next hole after that, and new ball for the next hole. You could actually use 18 different balls on 18 different holes if you wish. The switching of the ball before you start the hole is allowed, is what we're getting at. Okay, and next one. Chip again. He's just chipping in with a couple of stories.
Which we appreciate.
Okay, I know this breaks the rules. That's not a great start. I know this breaks the rules, but we have about 200 plus members of our men's group, so pace of play is very important. We have a hole that crests about 2/3 of the way down this par 4. If your drive is not very good, you cannot see the front of the green from your ball. Between you and the hole is a ravine, red staked, so penalty area, and a deep green side bunker and a line of bushes separating them. So if your second shot is not long, you lose sight of it. I get the gist of where he's going with this. Instead of driving over the bridge, over the ravine, parking, walking 40 yards to the bunker and edge of the ravine to look for your ball, we drop in front of the red stakes, call it a provisional, hit, then look for the original. I know you are supposed to look before you drop. We all know this, but we don't want to waste 6 minutes or so executing what you're supposed to do. What is your suggestion? Do you? It is my most hated local rule, but considering that they are breaking the rules, I would definitely get your committee to research and possibly implement local rule, Stuart.
Yeah, no, I don't know the number. You know the number.
No, because I'm one off here. I think it's B3.
Okay. And what is that local rule, though, more importantly?
Yeah, it is a local rule, Chip, that you are able, or your committee is able to adopt. And it means that you can play a ball provisionally if you're not sure whether a ball has gone into a penalty area or is lost outside the penalty area.
Inaldo Blakey, B3.
So there you go. So get your committee to look up local rule B3, and then potentially that will be exactly what you're doing at the moment, which is playing a ball provisionally under one of the penalty area rules, the penalty area options. And then, this is why I don't like it. But as I said, it's probably the best thing that you can do for your situation, or the club can do for the situation. You just have to educate the golfers on their actual how to proceed, their procedure after they find their original ball. If they find it in the penalty area, it's got a list there, Stuart, doesn't it?
You can modify the rule. 18.3 is modified to allow players to play a ball provisionally under Rule 17.1 D1, 2, and 3 for a red penalty area. Sorry, those three options for relief under a penalty area. Rules 18.3 B and C are modified to state that when such a provisional ball must or may be played or abandoned as stated by the model local rule. Model local rules down here further. If a player does not know whether their ball is in a penalty area, the player may play a provisional ball under Rule 18.3. In playing the provisional ball, the player may use the stroke and distance relief option, which is 17.1 D1, the back on the line relief option, or if it's a red penalty area, the lateral relief option as well, or if a dropping zone is available, you can use that. Once the player has played a provisional ball under this local rule, they may not use any further options under 17.1 in relationship to the original ball. Going a bit further, in deciding when that provisional ball becomes the player's ball in play, or if it must or may be abandoned. When the original ball is found in the penalty area within 3 minutes search time, the player may choose either to continue to play the original ball as it lies in the penalty area, in which case the provisional ball must be not played, abandoned. All strokes with that provisional ball don't count, or they can continue to play the provisional ball, in which case the original ball must not be played. So what
Yeah.
you probably don't like about it is you actually have a choice now,
Yeah, that's right. A
which will be one,
confusing choice, but
which you won't like. Yeah.
as I said, they're basically, as Chip said, they're basically breaking the rule at the moment. So this will actually help them out to not break the rules by adopting that local rule B3.
And of course, the key is, why would the committee adopt it? It's all about time. If it would unreasonably delay play, if the player had to go forward to look for the ball before returning to play another ball under one of the options under Rule 17. It's all about saving time.
Yeah, spot on. Rightio. We have another one here from Mr. Roberts. 4 players in the group playing a Stableford event. Player A hits a big long slice out into trees, scrub, wild animal country. He says, "We will never find that. I will hit another one." He didn't say anything about hitting a provisional. Player B then says, "Well, that is now your ball in play and you are 3. Player C pipes in, "I think we will have to look for his first shot for 3 minutes. Player B replies, "He might be better off playing his 4th shot with his second ball than if we find his ball in all that junk." Player C maintains that we have to look for his first ball, and if we find it, he has to play it. Player B keeps going, "Well, he might declare it unplayable. I think you can do that anytime you like." Player C maintains that we have to find it first before he can declare it unplayable.
Right.
Player D gets into the discussion. "I agree with C that we have to look for it. And if we find his ball, it is the one in play. If we don't find it, he is lying 3 with his second ball." C then says, "If we find it, he has to play it, and he cops a penalty for hitting the second ball and not saying it's a provisional. I think that's hitting a wrong ball or wrong substitute ball. Let's see what happens. And when we get in, we will ask Mr. R, Mr. Roberts, what should happen." So what actions were taken to resolve this? I hope you're keeping track of this, playing at home. As above, the group decided to ask when they finished the round. They found the first ball in all the rough trees scrub, and player A hacked his way out and ended up with a 7 on the hole and did not score any Stableford points. The group came into the clubhouse after the round and found Mr. Roberts happily enjoying a drink after his round of 33 points and described the situation. Mr. R found the rulebook and referred to Rule 18.1 of stroke and distance relief at any time and went through the rule with the 4 guys. Player C was a bit quiet. Player A said, "I could have played the second ball and scored a point or 2. Player B jumped in and said, "1 more point won't help your 22 points much." Mr. R then suggested that he send the story to Clubland Stories in the podcast Rules Questions with Blakey and Stewart,
Hey.
so that we can get the correct answer from the experts. The group of 4 said, "What is that?" And Mr. R explained, and they all said they would listen, sat down and had another drink. That's awesome. Okay, let's go through it. So first of all, player A has hit it into the scrub, which is not out of bounds. And he says, so this is your test, Stuart. He says, "We will never find that. I will hit another one." Is that a provisional ball or not, Stuart?
Certainly is not in my book.
So what we're saying, guys listening, is that is not enough to say that you're hitting a provisional. You either have to say you're hitting a provisional, or you're hitting another one just in case, or you're proceeding. This is Stuart's favorite one because he's a rules nerd. You're proceeding under Rule 18.3. So though one of those 3 sayings has to be said before you hit another ball, which you want, because you don't have to hit a provisional, but we'd encourage it. If you want to hit a provisional, you have to say that before you hit another. Now,
I think even the first words from player A was, "We will not find that."
Yeah.
It wasn't,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're going to have trouble. I may not find it." It was, "We're not going to find it."
If he'd said, "We might find that, but I'll hit another one
Just in case. Right.
But he might not want to find it.
Of course. Which leads us on to another comment someone else made about we have to go and look for it. But we'll get to
correct.
that.
So then player B then says, well, that is now your ball in play and you are 3. And that's
player
actually,
B wasn't Blakey?
No, it wasn't. But that is actually correct. Player B is spot on there. But then player C pipes in, I think we have to look for his first shot for 3 minutes. What do you say to that, Stuart?
Well, I don't agree with this, but certainly Rule 7 is pretty clear that there's no obligation for you to go and look for your ball. You don't have to look for it. Others can go and look for it. You can ask them not to, unless you physically arrest them and tackle them to the ground. They can go and look for it if they really wanted to. We have that conversation about your opponent in match play going to look for a ball of yours, even though you've asked them not to. But that's another matter. But no, you don't have to look for your ball.
Good. So you don't have to look for your ball. Now, player B replies, he might be better off playing his 4th shot with his 2nd ball than if we find his ball and all that junk.
They mean his ball in play.
Yeah, correct. He might be better off, as in he needs to go and play the one from
that's in play.
That's in play. They know where it is, I believe.
Mm.
Player C maintains that we have to look for the first ball, and that, as we said, that's not incorrect. Now, we're still going because there's a few other things that they've said and we need to clear up. Player B keeps going, well, he might declare it unplayable. I think you can do that anytime you like. What do you say to that?
That's not quite correct. There's 2 things. One, if your ball's in a penalty area, you can't declare it unplayable. Anywhere else on the course, you can. The second thing is, though, you can't always declare unplayable. There's one key criterion you need to meet to be able to declare your ball unplayable, unless you're proceeding under stroke and distance. But to take lateral relief or back on the line, the first box you must tick is actually locate and identify and find your ball. So you got to find it first.
So I would say 1 is correct about the penalty area. I'd say 2, you can declare it unplayable at any time, apart from in the penalty area. But if you want options B and C,
correct,
back on the line or lateral relief, you must find the ball. If you don't find the ball, you've still always got stroke and distance. Player C maintains we have to find it first before he can declare it unplayable. You have to find it if you want the back on the line or the lateral relief.
Correct.
And then player D got in and said, I agree with C, and we have to find the ball and play. If we find the ball, it's the one in play. If we don't find it, he is lying 3 with his 2nd ball. Both of us would say he's already lying 3 with his ball in play. That is his 2nd ball.
Definitely. Based on simply the wording used on the tee.
That's right.
And the intention.
And the fact that he's gone and played the original ball, which is now out of play when he played the 2nd ball.
Yep.
The original ball is the wrong ball.
Yep, there's a general penalty for hitting that ball.
I'm glad it was a Stableford event and he got 0 points, because that's basically exactly what he should have got.
Otherwise, he would have been disqualified.
Correct. If it was a stroke round and he didn't, and he went and played the wrong ball, you get the penalty and you need to fix your mistake. So hopefully we've cleared that up for the golfers there at Mr. R's club. Now, 2Bob is back. Oh, this is relates to what I just went through in Adelaide. So 3 players in a team event playing in a group. Can they give advice to each other about which clubs to use, etc.? Watching the first round of Live Adelaide, as I type this and I see that many of the groups are made up of are from only one of the Live teams. Are they permitted to give advice to each other as they play, as Live is both an individual and team event? And are there specific rules of the Live tournament that permit this? Looking forward to hearing more from Blakey about it all. Keep up the good work with podcasts and GolfRules videos. Cheers, 2Bob. So yeah, we did the draw on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning for Live Adelaide, and we put all the team captains together in the first 4 groups, and then we put all the team members from the 12 teams all together in 3 balls off the rest of the holes. So the Majestics were playing together, the Cliques were playing together, the Range Goats, Ripper, GC were playing together. And we actually sent a message out to the team saying, there is no, it's all an individual game. So, there is no giving advice between, your even though they're teammates on your team, there is no giving of individual advice, giving of advice to individuals, because you're still playing an individual game. So I hope that clears that up too, Bob. There is no allowance of teammates giving advice to each other. It was awesome putting them in teams. I watching them come down the fairway in their uniforms was such a really cool experience. I really liked it. I think that might be something that we do going forward as well.
I mean, this is not the live podcast, but just a side comment. There's certainly several innovations that this new tour has brought to golf, which I think people are loving. And I think the team is one of them, the team part of the whole event.
I don't think we've stopped either. I think we'll be continually innovating all the time to make sure that we, this tournament here, and I'll get into live in a second, but this tournament here was an awesome spectator experience. It's 5 hours. We had people turning up an hour, 2 hours before, but it's not all day necessarily. And we spread the players around the course, so you can get a good view of your favourites. We have a fan village, all that type of thing. So that this one here in Australia, in Adelaide, was a really good fan experience. But we still need to continually make the TV product as best as possible, because when we go to Singapore, I leave for Singapore soon, and we've got Live Golf in Singapore. When we go to Singapore, we won't have crowds. There'll be maybe 500 people there. It's hot, it's humid. There's chances of thunderstorms. It's just not a conducive place with lots of people to come and watch. So we just need to make sure, the biggest F1 fans, you sort of take a comparison to F1. The biggest F1 fans are in the UK, and they only drive around the UK F1, Silverstone. Got that wrong. Silverstone. They only do that once, but so they need to make sure that they have a great TV product for people when they in the UK are watching, when they go all over the world. And the same thing for this Live Golf. When we go all around the world, we need to make sure that the TV product is fantastic too. So there's always going to be continually innovations, making sure that the TV product is spot on and people are tuning in. Right, last one, another one from Colin. Loving these questions. On the 9th at Waimate. Waimate's a small town in the South Island of New Zealand. I only lived about 45 minutes from it when I grew up. My drive slightly sliced down a hollow near a fence, which includes a wet area running along it with a bank that runs up to the fence. Have you worked out what that is?
Trying to picture that, yep.
It sounds like a watercourse or a drainage ditch. Down a hollow near the fence, which includes a wet area running along it with a bank that runs up to the fence. It kind of sounds like that, but it also could just be a depression or the low part of that fairway or whatever. Mm-hmm. Normally, a weak shot would run down the bank that heads towards the wet area and fence is high on the bank, and we would find it 9 times out of 10. But this club day, we couldn't find it. I knew one option was to play my third off the tee, but one of my groups said it's a lost ball, so take a drop from where we thought it entered the temporary water and long grass. I couldn't go back in line with the pin because of the bank. what is the correct ruling? Their action was they took 2 club links and played their third from the agreed area. What do you think about that one, Stuart?
So if they proceeded by taking relief from temporary water, an abnormal course condition, it needs to be known or virtually certain that the ball is in there. That's the first box we need to check. Is it known or virtually certain that the ball is in the temporary water? Because that's the only way you can take free relief from there, even if you don't find it in there. It's still got to be known or virtually certain. If you don't find it in there, that may just change where you actually take relief from that water, but you've got to be known or virtually certain that it's in there in the first place.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't really sound like temporary water either. It kind of almost sounds like a penalty area. If it's sort of a low part of a fairway, it could be temporary water, but it doesn't actually sound like they have that 95% virtual certainty that it's in the temporary water or the long grass. So he's then taken a penalty drop and dropped it within 2 club lengths. You can only do the 2 club lengths penalty drop if you know where the ball is. And they didn't know where the ball was. So the only option is to go back and take stroke and distance from the tee. Now, if your club operates the local rule E5, an alternative to stroke and distance, then you could possibly do what you did, but you'd have to take a 2-stroke penalty. But that's only if that local rule has been adopted. You can't, to say that it's in the temporary water, and it needs to be temporary water, not constant water like what you'd find in a penalty area. It needs to be temporary, and you need to, as Stuart said, you need to have at least 95% virtual certainty that the ball was in that temporary water.
The fact, did he mention going back on the line? He mentioned going back on the line, but it wasn't an option. And then he's actually taken 2 club lengths, which immediately makes you think of a penalty area. Yeah, that's 2 of your options for a penalty area.
Collins definitely thought, I'll take it as well. He said, but one of my groups said it's a lost ball, so take a drop from where it went in.
Went into where, though, I wonder.
You can't take, if you lose your ball, your only option is stroke and distance, unless, as I said, the committee have adopted the local rule E5. You can't say, oh, there's a lost ball, I don't know where it is, I'm just going to take a drop from where I think it went into the temporary water, unless that local rule E5 is in, and then it's a 2-shot penalty, not 1. So I'd need, feel free, Colin, to email me, golfrules.questions@gmail.com, with a picture of the area. I'd like to have a look at it, see whether it should possibly be a penalty area instead. Because even if it was sort of water course, then by definition it is a penalty area, or it could be an area where the committee might want to call it a penalty area, and then you could take the 2 club length drop from point of entry if it was a penalty area, and that might speed up play as well. So
if it's known or virtually certain.
Yeah, correct.
Well, found the ball.
Thank you, everyone, for the Clubland stories. They were fantastic. And if you have any more, or anyone else has any more, or you hear of any in the bar, make sure you try and get them submitted, and we will read them out on the Golf Rules Questions podcast. Now, Stuart, did you have one?
I only had a simple one. My love and admiration for markers in a stroke play event. And this was at Clubland. This is last Wednesday. And I've finished. I'm sitting on the back deck, enjoying a snack and a drink with my group that I just finished with. And I see a group on the 18th. And just 20 metres off the green on the 18th is a no play zone. Now, the captain who will listen to this won't like me saying this. It could be better marked, but it is marked, but just not that well. But anyway, it is a no play zone. I know and there's a group looking for a ball in that area. Everything around that no play zone, which is not a very big area, everything around it is either the concrete path or closely mown grass, fairway length. And I could see them looking, and we're just chatting away, still looking. I could hear the conversation. They're talking about provisional, and I thought, I shouldn't do this, but I will. I'm a nerd. I'm a rules guy. You see a situation, you want to help. I'm 20 meters away. I know the player. I just walked over. I said, John, can I help in any way? He goes, yeah, my ball's sort of come into this area here, into the thick scrub. We can't find it. I'm about to go and play my provisional. I said, well, you know that area's a no play zone. He goes, oh. He said, yeah, but we can't find it. I said, but that's okay. If it's known or virtually certain to be in there, you don't have to, you don't take the provisional. That's when his marker chipped in. Marker, we can't find it. I said, no, that's okay. But if we're known or virtually certain that it's in there, that's enough for us to proceed and take free relief from the no play zone. Yeah, but we can't find it. So I'm going, okay. So, and then the player himself then chimes in, oh, yeah, I sort of need to convince my marker. And this is where I'm going, I don't understand this whole relationship that players have with their markers. And I think a lot of players, and you can have your own point of view on this, I just feel that, and putting it bluntly, your marker could be an idiot, right? Your marker could have the worst rules knowledge of any of your 1,000 members at your club. Your marker may have no idea about the rules. And this whole idea of, oh, well, I sort of need to convince my marker. I need to make sure my marker is okay with the way I'm proceeding. I don't see it that way. And as you taught me years ago, the marker is the eyes and ears of the committee. And we have a process where if a marker doesn't agree with the score, don't sign the card. Raise it with the committee. And there shouldn't be any, black mark on that, just the process we can follow. And the player goes, no, I know I'm allowed to take free relief. In fact, I must take free relief from this no play zone. I'll do that whether my marker likes it or not, because I know the rules. Anyway, that's just a CLUBLAND rule happened. I walked away thinking the marker was getting a bit upset with me, and I'm going, look, I'm not interested in this. I'm not here in any official capacity. I was just trying to help. I'm not going to get involved anymore. I've told you what I think. And I walked away and let them, I don't even know how they finished, because I sort of thought, oh, I've said too much and tried to help, and it probably didn't work out as well as I would have liked.
So your line of thinking here is you don't have to convince your marker, but if your marker has an issue with how you've proceeded, they don't sign the scorecard and they bring it up and have a conversation with the committee.
I think it's very, very helpful, and I think you should do everything you can to talk to your marker, let them know what you're doing. I think this, I'm going to proceed this way. And I think ultimately it's the player's ball and it's their right to play that ball how they want. And I think if your marker disagrees, but you know the rule or you're pretty comfortable with what you're doing, I find it a funny relationship between, I find it funny about what the marker is. And I think some people take on the role of marker as a very serious responsibility with some authority. And I don't see it that way. I see it as just a second opinion on what happened. And I think the player, as said, I think the player has a right to play their ball as they see fit. And yes, I think you should, for all the right reasons, try to explain to your marker why you're doing something. But I think if your marker doesn't agree, but you want to proceed that way, then you're entitled to do that.
Yeah, so if the marker doesn't agree, that doesn't mean you should stop and debate it for 2, 3, 4 minutes.
Or 5 to 8.
I'd probably agree with that too. I think that's spot on. I mean, the marker might be an idiot. The player might be even more of an idiot as well. But if you're not sure, don't let the other one convince you. Just say, okay, that's fine. You do what you want to do. Let's bring it up with the committee at the end. And it's not a I hate you, I'm going to bring it up with the committee. It's I'm just not sure and I want to learn about this. You could be completely right.
Yep.
I just need someone to explain it to me when we're not right in the middle of battle. And that'll be easier that way.
And the last thing that would have crossed their mind is 20.1C3. Would have been the last thing they would have considered.
Well, obviously the last thing they considered was asking someone who has some rules knowledge in the group.
Right.
Which I would have thought was the was the easiest one, but that's okay.
Hmm.
That's very good. Now, I am just going to do a quick wrap up of Live Golf in Adelaide, which was unbelievable. The build, Australia has never seen a build on a golf course that big, ever. Actually, that's a lie. The President's Cup was probably slightly bigger. So sorry, I forgot about the President's Cup. But certainly in Adelaide, there's never been a build that big, and it was incredible. So with a build that big, you know, all the buildings, all the TIOs, like every hole has a TV tower, and so they're all TIOs that we have to take into account when we're giving rulings. Where players are, when we're setting up the course, where players are going to hit their balls. It's amazing the restrictions and that we are under now. We can't just put the tee markers wherever we want on the tee. We have to put the tee markers a certain distance away from the board for shot tracer, but not too far away, otherwise it doesn't pick it up. We can't put it too close to the board in case the player actually hits the board. And, you know, so we need to sort of work all that stuff out before they start installing boards, the tee backing signs, so that they don't, A, don't make a mess of the place, and B, so it runs as smooth as possible. We had a really cool thing having 16 guys from the greenkeeping staff, which is very lucky because they have a bigger staff than normal at the Grange, being that they have 36 holes. So we had Rowan, the superintendent, who did an absolutely amazing job in preparation, and now he'll be going back to a course where all the grass is dead and they won't get too much growth coming into winter. So hopefully it repairs itself. They might be playing the other 18 holes that wasn't in play, although that was where the car parking was, so that might be dead as well. But you know, he did an amazing job and gave 16 blokes the opportunity, 16 people the opportunity to rake the bunker, or carry a rake around with every group and rake bunkers after the players played out, which was awesome and really helped with the pace of play. So I think that's something that we really want to implement going forward. And you know, all you got to do is find 16 people who are capable of raking bunkers. So that shouldn't be too hard to accomplish. So we had a lot of TIOs. I had one player ask me if he could remove a leaf in a bunker. It's only been 4 years since that rule had been implemented, so I was a bit surprised, but it was a quick and easy yes, you can. I had a water hose connection, and this was a really funny one actually, because I thought he just wanted relief from the water hose connection, and then we gave him relief, and he dropped his ball twice. His ball came to rest, and then he said, "Oh, what about the hole that I'm standing in?" I was like, "Oh, you could have brought that up," because I didn't really think it was a hole. I thought it was just more undulation, and this water hose connection was just at the bottom of it. But it was really funny because I was arguing against him, saying, no, that's just undulation. But in my head, I was going, yeah, he's right. That is part of the, it's a hole created by the greenkeeper in the design of the golf course. So, or the design of that immovable obstructions is a better way to put it. So I actually cancelled the drop that we gave him and started the process again after getting a second opinion, which was fine. I had another one where a guy was right up against a small stump of a tree, and the reasonable stroke that he would have to play would be backwards down the fairway. And in playing that shot, he was going to have interference with this immovable obstruction, this little railing. So I looked at it and I was like, yeah, well, that really is the only shot that he's going to be able to play, and it's reasonable. So I gave him relief, and then he chipped it out anyway, but it was just going to be a better chip out for him. But it was a reasonable shot. And there were sort of some logs over there. I said, oh, well, this is movable and this one's movable. And then we looked at this one and I go, well, that's movable, because I just thought it was sitting on the ground, but it wasn't. It was actually it was attached, growing. It's not growing anymore, but it was attached. And I went to push it, and I pushed it and moved it a centimetre or so. I was like, oh, no, that's definitely attached. So let's not do that. So I ended up giving him relief. Had one it was an interesting one with Sergio, where his ball was behind a TIO, and he said, first of all, someone said that someone picked it up, and then so then I had to ask the crowd, oh, did anyone see this? Yeah, I saw it. A person picked it up, and then they just dropped it. And I said, okay, well, how close is it to where it was picked up from? Oh, it's pretty much right there. And Sergio's like, yeah, hang on. Was it right there, or was it a little bit back further down the hill? And the guy's like, no, it was right there. And another guy goes, yeah, no, it was there. And he goes, no, but this is serious. This is really serious. Was it there, or was it a little bit further down the hill? And these two Aussies are like, now they thought that Sergio was sort of trying to take the piss. So they said, no, it was right there. I go, like, it was right here.
How many more people do you need to ask?
You need to pick it up and just put it back. And then he found like the best spot to put it in, as you would. I said, it's an estimate, so what are you going to do? And then he went through potentially this TIO, but he didn't like where the TIO was going to drop him. So he just started moving this movable part of a TIO. And I was like, oh, hang on, we better check about that one. So got on the radio, hey, I just want to confirm that you can move a movable part of a TIO. And no one seemed to have an objection to it. I know that you can move a movable part of an IO, but I just want to check about temporary immovable obstruction. So no one had an objection, so we let him move it, and then he didn't take the free relief. He just hit it over it.
Anyway,
that was that one. And then I had another one where a ball came to rest in a spectator's arm, and they'd already taken it out when I got there, and were giving it to the player. And then I was like, okay, so where was it? And they pointed at the spot down on the ground. And I was like, okay, well, why is it not there now? Oh, well, no, it came to rest in my arm. I was like, oh, okay. So where were you standing or sitting? Okay, I was here, right here. Okay, great. Let's get a spot underneath there. And then I go, Peter, it's going to be a drop because it didn't have it didn't touch the course. So it's going to be a drop within a club length. And drops it, gets it back in, all good. So that was my 6 or 7 rulings. Plus, I saw a guy get hit in the shoulder blade, so I went over to him and said, "Are you okay? Do you need first aid?" He said it was okay. And he said one of his mates piped in and said, "Oh, he's looking for a signed glove." I was like, "Oh, don't ask me. I'm just a referee." And I said, you deflected it into the rough. If you deflected it into the fairway, you might have got a signed glove. Anyway, it was seriously amazing. I was sort of nervous because I was like, there's so many people out here. Like we would have had it was over 20,000 people that turned up, and you could see them flooding after Cam Smith. You could see them, they love Phil Mickelson. Dustin Johnson got a little bit of love, but he's not in huge or really good form at the moment. But yeah, they love Cam Smith, they love Phil Mickelson, they love Bryson DeChambeau, they love Bubba. Those real big personalities, and that's what Liv's done. Liv's gone out and got the personalities of the golf world, of the professional golf world, and that's the marketing of the whole thing. And it's an entertainment product, and that was really entertaining.
There was a bit of love for Brooks' brother yesterday.
Yeah, that was insane. I was on the 5th hole, which is miles away from the 12th. It's actually the furthest away you could get from the 12th hole. And just the eruption and the noise was unbelievable.
Do you remember what I said to you?
And it felt like an atom bomb.
That's what you said. I messaged you. I said, did you hear that? And you said, yeah, it sounded on the furthest point away, and it sounded like an atom bomb going off.
You could just, because it was like what a sound of an atom bomb. Imagine, how there's that mushroom cloud, and then that's what it was like. It was like, there's music. People don't quite understand it. You can probably hear it on the telecast a little bit, but there's music playing on every tee all the time. Like it doesn't quieten down for a player to stop and hit their shot. It's just constantly going, and the players really get into this. Is something so different for them. But as I was talking with another referee, it is exhausting. And this week in Singapore, we won't have the crowds like that, but we'll have the heat, and that's what will make the players exhausted. But yeah, hopefully you wouldn't want to do too many of 14 is. If you had 14 Adelaides, I think people would break down and go, no, I can't keep going, because it's exhausting. It's exciting, but it's exhausting.
I'm sure the money would help them.
Yeah, the money would help. Yeah, I sleep on dollar bills at night. That's right. But it was an awesome experience, and they're thinking about having 2 in Australia, which I reckon they'll get to. You don't want to ruin it, but I think there is a massive demand for it down here in Oz. So
that was pretty evident on the weekend, I think.
Yeah, spot on. And
the number of people I spoke to who actually travelled from Melbourne just for the event.
And we saw people from Sydney as well. So make sure it's good value. Give lots of extra stuff. That fan village, people can go and chill out there. Have the music pumping all day, because then it just feels like an absolute vibe. And get the golfers playing some good golf on a great golf course. I think that almost wraps us up. Stuart, can you wrap us up with GRQOTW 86, please?
Here we go.
GRQOTW 86. Stuart, take it away.
GRQOTW for episode 86 is pretty easy for you, Blakey. Big P's ball lies just inside a red penalty area on the 4th hole at Wombat Hills. His ball is playable, and in taking his stance for a reasonable stroke, his left foot is standing in temporary water in the general area. He takes free relief and drops correctly within the relief area within the penalty area. He plays his second shot, chips onto the green with his third, and has 2 putts to hole out. Pretty straightforward. What is his score for the hole and why?
Yeah, interesting one, that one. I need to go and check out my book and study, get that answer right.
No, you don't.
Excellent, Stuart. Well, we'll get the answer to the GRQOTW 86 next time we schedule the podcast, hopefully next week. And I hope everyone's enjoyed listening to the Clubland stories. Remember, if you have a Clubland story or know of one, get it in, and we will talk about it on air.
Yeah, please. We love them.
Okay, Stuart, have a good week, and until next time.
Thanks, Blake. You too. Safe travels.